You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings.
Hello, I'm Maria Wyma, Chairman of the Board of Directors for the Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio Chapter. I am grateful for the panel that has gathered here today. Minority Perspective is a live chat with brave lupus patients that are willing to share their experiences to educate and uplift our community. I would like to personally thank the Ohio Commission on Minority Health for helping our chapter in our mission to improving the quality of life for all people affected by lupus through programs of research, education, and advocacy. Once again, thanks everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, we had a great little intro there. I just want to thank Maria Wyma for greeting us and opening up our program today. Welcome to the Be Fierce Minority Perspective. This is a live program designed to open the lines of communication and learn from lupus patients. Our program this afternoon is in collaboration with the Ohio Commission on Minority Health and the Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio Chapter. Today, we have gathered a diverse group of women to share their lupus journey and successes with managing their lupus. We will work to identify within the community ways to take charge and be fierce managing a chronic illness. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment for a little disclaimer. The Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio Chapter does not give medical advice to patients regarding their treatment of their lupus. Your physician is the best source of information regarding medical management of your health. This program is available for informational and educational purposes only, and the content provided by our providers and or professionals within this context of the program is not necessarily the views of the Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio Chapter. So, hi guys, I'm Leslie Tierney. I'm the Vice President of Operations and Patient Navigator for the Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio Chapter. I have been dedicated to fighting the mission with the foundation for 23 years. I actually started as a young volunteer and now as a registered nurse and patient navigator, I'm vested into helping lupus patients learn how to live their best life. Joining me this afternoon are some awesome and incredible women who are also dedicated and passionate to the mission and fighting the fight against lupus. This afternoon, we have Aletha Acree, Natalie Lindsay-Smith, Dr. Tanya Quinones-Santiago, and Sonia Monroy. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining. I just want to take a few minutes and do some self-introductions and get to know one another. And I was hoping you could introduce yourself and then maybe tell me one fun fact that we'd like everyone to know about you. Could we actually start off with Aletha? Aletha, can you say hi and give a little intro? Yeah, I'm picking on you first.
Of course, I'm not ready. Acree, I am the Minority Outreach Coordinator for the state of Ohio, and I'm also a lupus patient. A fun fact about me that nobody seems to know is that I'm shy.
I love the giggle. You're shy, but you got a big passion, a big fight. The passion definitely outweighs that shyness you got. But good. Okay, so that's your fun fact. I think I knew that a little bit, but maybe not everyone else knew. And don't worry if you're nervous or something. We all got you, so it's all good.
Thank you.
Dr. Q, can we go with you? Can you do a little self-intro?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Dr. Quinones-Santiago. They just call me Dr. Q. I have been living with lupus for 21 years. And had my ups and downs as probably everybody else here today, and a lot of you watching have as well. And learned a lot along the way. And my goal with working with the Lupus Foundation of America is to use all of the knowledge that I've learned through my personal journey, the struggles and the bounce back, to help other people and encourage people to do the same, and help hopefully their journey a lot less lonely. And and a fun fact about me, I've got a few, but I'm a martial artist, so black belts in Taekwondo, and I'm from Montana. People always find that fascinating.
That is fascinating.
But they always say they've never met anybody from Montana.
Well, that's pretty cool. We got a daily double from you. You will have to teach us some Taekwondo moves because I'm impressed with that. That's pretty awesome. I love empowerment through physical activity. All right, Natalie Lindsay-Smith, could you please do a little intro and one fun fact about you that we don't know?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and my fellow panelists. Again, my name is Natalie Lindsay-Smith. I am a support group facilitator for the Lupus Foundation in Acree, and I am also on the board of trustees for the Ohio chapter. Fun fact, and I am a lupus patient as well. Fun fact about me, that's kind of tough. The new thing that I'm into is I'm a recently licensed chemical and alcohol dependency counselor. So that's something that I'm looking forward to getting into in my next life once I retire.
I didn't know you did that, Natalie. That's awesome. Congratulations. You've been working on a lot of big career moves and you know, you got your master's and you just keep moving forward. So I love seeing your success. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And Miss Sonia Monroy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes, comunidad. As my name is Sonia Monroy, I am the chair of Northeast Ohio Association for Hispanic Health, known as NOAH with a double H. And I'm also a lupus patient for 37 years, a big advocate in the community about everything and all. And been working in the community for about just the same amount of time, 37 years. A fun fact about me is that I used to dance ballet when I was young, into my teenage years, and I had a show on Saturdays all to myself about dancing ballet.
Wow, that is beautiful. That is a fun fact. So I feel like I've known you all for quite some time now, and that little bit of information was more for me. So thank you for that gift of allowing me to know a little bit more in your life. I always knew you had really good posture, Sonia, so that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have a little special message for our panel today. We have joining us Senator Sandra Williams and State Representative Stephanie House. Have a little message for you ladies here today. Let's see if I can grab them on in.
I am State Senator Sandra Williams, and I represent the 21st Senate District here in Ohio. Thank you for participating in this live program, Be Fierce, Minority Perspectives to discuss lupus and its tremendous impact. This month, the Lupus Foundation of America, Greater Ohio chapter has joined with the American College of Rheumatology and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to be fierce, take control, and raise awareness of lupus. Lupus is a disease that is difficult to diagnose and can take years to identify. No one should have to wait years to get a diagnosis when they aren't feeling well. I know this from experience because I am a lupus patient. To the panel of speakers that are here today, by joining together to discuss your challenges and obstacles, success stories, and your journeys, you are helping others take control of their health. Thank you for your courage to speak out. Let's learn how to be fierce and take control of lupus together. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Senator Williams. That was wonderful. And so we greet her too right on back. And actually, we also have Stephanie, Representative Stephanie House.
Greetings. I'm State Representative Stephanie House from Ohio's House District 11. I want to thank each of you for joining together for this important program, Minority Perspectives, to discuss life as a minority lupus patient. Lupus, along with many other diseases, disproportionately impacts people of color. It's vital to understand that living with lupus is difficult, but living with lupus as a person of color can be even more challenging. I've spent time talking with you at the Walk to End Lupus Now. I've listened as you shared your stories, and I want you to understand that I hear you, I support you, and I commend you for speaking out today, for sharing your challenges, your successes, and encouraging others with lupus to take control of their health and learn better disease management. Discussing lupus in an open and honest format from the perspectives of those who suffer from its effects is brave, and I thank you for sharing your stories.
Well, thank you, Representative House. And wow, digging into the portions of questions so that we can all get to know one another and share with the community. We are getting a few comments in here, and the chapter is really rallying away and greeting everyone and just saying, it says, hi, Natalie, from our chapter. So thanks for joining here. And hello, everyone, and have a blessed day. Thank you, Lily, and really appreciate that support. And so, just jumping in here, the first topic of conversation I think is important for us to discuss. And, really, why are we on this platform, truthfully? And we all know it's because COVID's here and we can't join together and be with one another in person. So this is the next best thing as far as keeping us safe. So this first question I'd like for all of us to try to address here is, how have you been handling the COVID-19? And what has the impact of COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order had on you and your lupus? If you don't mind, I'd like to try to start with Dr. Q. If you wouldn't mind, just, what has changed for you? I know you're still working and all that's good stuff, and we appreciate that. But how is the impact of COVID? How are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing really well. Surprisingly so. I know it's been an extremely difficult time for the entire world, and especially for those who are immunocompromised, like everybody on this panel right now. So, fear sets in and all those emotions, especially initially. But I chose to, from the beginning, kind of look at this from a different angle because lupus has taken a lot of time away from me, like I'm sure it has many of you all out there, that I didn't want a pandemic to take more time away from my life. So my husband has been extremely supportive. We try to just keep a really positive mindset throughout this. Feed our minds positive things, whether it's podcasts or reading good uplifting books, making sure we exercise quite a bit, being outside as much as we can in a safe manner. All of those types of things, getting away, even though we can't go on the traditional type of vacations that we like to go on, driving to a private cabin up in the mountains. You can't really get more socially distanced than that, right? But so for us, I know it has actually been a pretty good year, not in terms of the fact that there's COVID, but in terms of the fact that we were able to overcome and not allow it to take control over our lives and allow us to stay strong mentally and physically, which helped our bond more as well. And it just also helped me in ways to realize more about myself, what it is I really want out of life, what it is I really wanted to do. So I had a completely different viewpoint on COVID itself. But it has been to be home and not be social. I'm a very social person. I like to be around people. I like to hug. I'm very, I like to hug, and in our culture we hug and we kiss. You can't do that. You can't hug, really the only person I've hugged is my husband. So you can't hug your family members, and that's been really, really challenging for me. So, and it's hard.
It's a strange feeling, right? To know, can we hug? Is this okay to touch? What do we do now? Because I'm such a big hugger. I know I saw Aletha recently, and she came to give me a hug, and I hesitated. And it's like, when have you ever hesitated to give a friend a hug?
Exactly.
And she felt that, and I said, oh my gosh, come here. And we just gave each other a big hug, and I think we both needed it. But it kind of sounds like things slowed down for you a little bit, and maybe you were able to kind of prioritize what was important: relationship building, physical health, and that nature.
Yeah.
I'd love to jump to Natalie, because I know she's been digging in and has, created central station at her home as far as all of her work that she does. But Natalie, how about you and your girls too? How has this impact changed for you?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Leslie. It has been a challenge trying to reimagine being effective and productive working from home. And my daughters, one is a teacher and the other is a clinical therapist, and they've had to reimagine and be agile in how they work. They're both in the state of Ohio, fortunately. However, they are distance away, so I can't really see them as much as I would like. Thank goodness for technology. That's the one big thing that really impacted how I do everything now, between Zoom and Teams, and let's not forget House Party. It's a way to stay connected. And I even got my mom to participate in House Party. So that was kind of how we connected on Easter. But as far as how COVID also has impacted me as a lupus patient, I tell you, when we had that kind of scare as it relates to being able to get hydroxychloroquine, that in and of itself was a challenge, because as you know, lupus patients, the majority of us really depend on hydroxychloroquine. And when we were having difficulty getting it, that was scary. That was scary. Fortunately, things seem to be not as difficult now, but that became an issue. The other thing is, being able to worship at church. We had to figure out how we were going to do that. And that was impactful for me because, I'm in ministry. And again, going to your point of not being able to hug people, that's an issue. Having that connection relationally is very important, particularly when you are a person who is ill. Sometimes that physical touch can be very healing. But all in all, thankfully, my lupus, the way it's been managing, has not been too problematic. And for those really tough days, those hard days, working from home really did help. But I would have to say COVID also helped me with hobbies, things that I kind of set off to the side. I didn't have time for it. So I was able to, by way of COVID, I was forced to slow down. So I was able to get back into some hobbies and reconnect with some people that I hadn't been able to reconnect with. COVID has just made us refigure how we do our day to day.
Different, right? You brought up a lot of good points, especially the point with Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine. That was a big scare, and we had a lot of patients calling in saying, I can't fill my prescriptions, or I can't get the medication, and what's going to happen here. And other patients saying, I'm not going to take my medication. I want to, kind of save it, because what if it is something that will help my family? And so that was something very scary for us, because we had to tell them, we don't know this to be true. Please take your medications as prescribed. Don't hoard them by any means. And it really brought in a surplus of pharmaceutical companies to start pumping out, creating more medication. And we actually are working with Extend Care, and we're working on a distribution to help lupus patients receive some of their medications, specifically hydrochloroquine. So, keep following along with the chapter. We'll be putting out more information. It's kind of something we're working on now to let patients know that if you're having difficulty filling that specific medication, we may have a route to help you with that med. So thank you, Natalie, for bringing that up. And that's something that we really did pay attention to, and we dug in hard to see how we could help patients get the medication. We did, but we're not a hospital or a pharmacy, so we're working with physicians right now to see if they can refer patients to receive the medication free of charge. So we're working on that. More information to come.
One thing I want to say on that is the one good thing that came out of that is it brought lupus to the forefront.
Yes.
Yes.
So that was good because so many people don't know what lupus is, and now all of a sudden there's a shortage of a drug that's very important for people living with lupus, and all of a sudden lupus is everywhere, all over the news. And so that was one good thing that came from that, is that
good that they're starting to hear the word lupus, right? But still scary because, a recent statistic out there was 65% of the U.S. population know little or nothing about lupus, And so although the word is out there, it's like how many people really truly understand? And so that is super important that we are here educating, right? And so I'd like to give Sonia a chance to just, I think your experience has been a little bit different, Sonia, as far as, you working from home. And I know we had talked early on and we did a program with your organization. But how have you been doing? Can you give us an update?
So for me, first of all, thank you. And I am honored to be in this panel with such courageous and beautiful women. So for me, it has been, as I listen to their stories, mine has been a little different. For me, was very challenging. And at the same time, it was a throwback in time, not in the early 80s, when I was being diagnosed, of hearing of as a young age of a disease that I haven't even heard of it, didn't know anything about it. And so it was that kind of thing, like, well, what is it? And what's going to happen? And what if this? And a lot of questions. Same thing was with the coronavirus, right? Like, what is it? And what are the side effects? And how do you get it? And how would I know? And as I was like, hearing about it, the symptoms was like, well, wait a minute. I already have those symptoms. How am I going to know if it is my lupus flaring up, or do I have the coronavirus? Am I going to be going, all the time trying to get tested? So I had to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and say, get a grip on yourself. And you need to, face this fearless. You can't let this take over. You can't start this with fear. So like one step at a time with wisdom. In my culture, Spanish culture, like we are like, I'm a people person. I hug, I kiss, like my job is in the community. I'm a community engagement coordinator for my regular job. And as the chair of NOAA, we're obviously, educating the community. And so it was like, how do you do that? You had to, rethink everything. But I needed to make sure that, for one, my sanity needed to be clear. I needed to approach this one day at a time with wisdom, but like not with fear. I couldn't go back and everything that I have, accomplished and come forward to, I couldn't let this take me back. So it was just like one day at a time, and try not to lose myself in it, and just say, like, you do what you can. And working from home, you would think that working from home sometimes may be like less work, but actually it quadrupled the job. So I was finding myself even working like from morning until midnight or 1 o'clock. And then it's like, at what point, I needed to, I could say no, because like I said, working in the community and with all the even questions from the people, they were like constantly needing you and not being able to go there. So, I needed to also, I also believe, not only just depend on pills myself, but also on holistic, medicine, in the sense of meditation, It's one of them taking a step to taking a time to say, breathe, take some time to like just take a breath when you're feeling overwhelmed, making sure that I ate right because I needed to keep my strength. I needed to make sure that I didn't get sick. And like I said, it was confusing because that was my first phone call that I made. I remember to my doctor was like, I need to know, how am I going to know? Because the symptoms that, for what I see, that is for the coronavirus is really what I already experienced every day. So how am I going to know? And I just don't want to be like scared. And so it was very important for me to check myself every day and to make sure that mentally I was prepared for everything and not put myself in a bubble. I couldn't put myself in that bubble because lupus is already, your autoimmune is already low, right? And if I put myself more in a bubble, I able to fight even less. So I'm not saying that I needed to go and expose myself to things, but I couldn't just be in a bubble. So try to take walks, try to be outside, even if it was in the backyard. Make sure that I had some oxygen, some little bit of sun, if you could, and do some
Getting up in the elements,
and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I needed those elements in my life.
It was a little confusing to decipher symptoms of COVID, symptoms of lupus, and how to really distinguish. So it sounded like you educated yourself, did not bunker down as far as being a recluse and hiding under the sheets, but taking the time to create some healthy mental space and still being active but safe. Right. So there was one thing, and I hope, please forgive me if it's okay to share this. We talked once, and during COVID, it was kind of like no one was going to beauty salons, getting their nails done, their hair done. And you had mentioned to me that a patient said, "Oh, COVID has happened, Sonia, and you haven't had time to get your hair done." But it wasn't that, because you do your own hair, right? But it was really that you were having a bit of a flare of a rash on your head. And they were associating, the neglect of coloring our hair or doing it a certain way as a COVID thing. But really, this was more of a lupus flare.
Yes.
That was one of the things that really kind of struck me. And I'm sorry if I gave away your beauty tip there.
No.
But I think it was something important that people were confused too. They did not know, the signs and symptoms of lupus, or was this the effects of the stay-at-home order?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that was true, because I actually myself, I was like, what? Like, lupus in my scalp, my head, and so from there, I needed to make also you're faced to making a decision about, do I want beauty, or do I want what the world says is beauty?
Yes.
Or do I just, be myself and be happy with me? And so I decided to, because of it, it was being a big flare up to literally, there were times I couldn't even touch my hair. It was like I had wounds, on my scalp. It hurt and it burned, and it was just like I just needed to put my head in the freezer and freeze it because it hurt so bad. And so, was
that a newer symptom for you? Had you had rashes on your head, or was this COVID?
I think it was because, when I was coloring my hair, it was something that you were constantly doing, that you would you would make an excuse to say it was the color or it was the chemical and all that. But really, when with COVID, I couldn't do my hair. I noticed that it was something that was still there. And I was like, when I talked to the doctor, and then I started like looking, and I was like, what is going on? Like, it looked like I had a map on my head. It was like red parts. And I was like, what's going on? And I didn't know. And so COVID opened my eyes to introduce me to something that it was there, but I didn't know. I was not educated myself on it, because actually, you know, you learn about lupus every day. Every day is something new. Every day is like, oh, well, I've had this all the time. I didn't know. No, well, that's actually because of lupus. And so I'm kind of grateful to COVID because he allowed me not to have to do my hair. And so for that, now I'm a little wiser regarding my hair and my scalp and that part of my body. So then now I can make a better decision for myself.
So for lupus patients, it's super important to recognize what triggers inflammation, pain, rashes, certain symptoms, certain foods that may trigger the activity for lupus that happens for you. So it is individualized, you know.
Yes.
As coloring your hair may affect you, maybe someone else it doesn't affect, but maybe certain foods trigger someone else's lupus. You know, I truly believe stress to be that number one trigger for so many patients. You know, that's just my opinion, but I know there are studies out there that really heavily signify that stress is a big cause to lupus flares. You know, so that was something I was very fearful of when patients were calling and panicked, couldn't fill their prescription medications, couldn't get out and hug someone. It created a lot of panic, you know, and a lot of fear. And I just want to give a shout out to Tammy here. She says anxiety had struck over her house and, you know, she missed her coworkers and friends. And so, you know, I think we all had a bit of anxiety because we didn't know what to expect. And, but we all learned ways to cope and do that. And, you know, Aletha, I want to give you time to talk too, but maybe could I tweak this a little bit? How has the COVID impacted you and maybe your community? I know you have boys that are in school and are active within the community. Could you say maybe a little bit how have you done with COVID and also what have you seen within your community with the effects of COVID?
So with me for COVID, I didn't have the option of working at home. I work at the hospital in the emergency room. So I worked the whole time. I've been working. And my son is a teacher, and my other son, he goes to high school. So the only person that hasn't been out of the house is my younger son. I've kept him at home because I recently had him tested for lupus because of some signs and symptoms that he was showing. But other than that, my house has been functioning. My community, I facilitate 2 support groups. The people that go to those support groups, they can't use Zoom. They don't know how to do it. It was frustrating for them. So we had to revert back to the telephone tree, and they really didn't care for that either. So my community is greatly affected by it because they don't have any access to people. And those support groups that we did have going on were their access to people. And personally, my mom had COVID. My husband had COVID.
Yes, Dorothy, I didn't know that.
We
Should
had
have sent her.
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't have a chance to stop and do anything. And with regard to me personally, I don't associate with a lot of people. Even my family, I only go to certain places, and those same practices that we already did, they didn't affect us.
Well, I want to say, so maybe family-wise, it didn't affect you. Your family's really close-knit, right? You guys all kind of hunker down together anyway. I know your boys are good mama boys. I love mama's boys. You know, they support mom in every way, and that's beautiful. But I have to point out, so much has changed for you, right? As far as working with the Lupus Foundation, no health fairs, no support groups. You know, we were missing that bond. And one of the reasons why we're on this platform today is because Aletha typically hosts a program at the Stephanie Tubbs Jones building, the Sister Circle, where we can gather in the community. They can come out for a meal. We can educate on lupus. And typically Dr. Ben Warren comes and helps and educates that group. And we can't do that today. So, you know, a lot has changed for you. We've cut back on programming, and Aletha and I have been talking quite frequently. We're looking for ways to get back into the community. We're taking slow steps to be in the community, join face to face, and not so much telephones and computers and stuff. Although I think this is a great platform for us to speak on, it's not the only thing we're going to do, and we're going to get there. I should say, Aletha, you usually hit up like barber shops and beauty shops in the past and go and have like coffee conversation with people and help educate with lupus. That's been a big step back too. Going back to the hair and lupus, a lot of the times hairdressers or barbers can see stuff happening on the scalp and are that first person that say, hey, something's going on here. You need to talk to your doctor. And so Aletha started a group, like, what did you call it? Was it Locks for Lupus or?
Leslie, I forgot the name.
Well, it was like a coffee shop. You know what? Because you were just at it. You were in there active in the community. So my point was you just kind of, everything stopped. You weren't getting out there as much as you'd like to.
Combing through lupus.
Combing through lupus. There you go. Because I messed you up because I came up with something catchy there. Yeah, that's okay. And I got to give a shout out. She really struggled not having support groups and meeting in person. Lisa Brighting, she's a patient navigator for our chapter and is in the Akron area. We want to give her a big shout out. We miss you, and we'll get back to support groups pretty soon, my friend. So, okay, moving right along, I think it's important, and we say this a lot in our support groups, and why as the Lupus Foundation of America, we say support groups are so important. And we feel this way because you will learn the most from other lupus patients than you will from any website, any book, any pamphlet that you find out there. And the reason is truly because patients have been battle tested, and I say it that way because patients figure out along the way that they go how to manage and deal with their lupus. And truly no two lupus patients are alike, but in the sense there are similarities that come about, right? And so I just, kind of starting back over again, what's something you really want the community to know about lupus? You have range here to talk to people. What is it that you want people to know? And I'm going to start back with Dr. Q. What do you want people to know about lupus?
A lot of people in their mind, if they think about lupus, it's either they don't know anything about lupus, right? Or they think you're on your deathbed. So I feel like what I would really strongly like the community to know is just because somebody might look perfectly normal, quote unquote normal, might look healthy, that doesn't mean inside their body is not wreaking havoc on itself. With lupus, the body attacks itself. And that doesn't necessarily mean just because I might look, I'm in shape, I might have a smile on my face and be at work. That doesn't mean when I take steps or when I use my hand to write or type that I'm not in a lot of pain just to use my hands or that I'm just hanging on with everything I can just to stay awake. Because even after sleeping, you wake up and you're still tired. So, I would like people to have, just in general, whether it's lupus or any other pathophysiology, I would just like them to have a little bit more compassion for people and treat people as if they would treat their own family member or themselves. Would you want somebody saying, well, you don't look sick, and that doesn't, that just adds to the stress and anxiety that people living with lupus already have. I mean, when you wake up and you're having a bad day, there's a lot of bad days with lupus, and you have to try to turn them into good days. And it's hard to maintain that positive mindset when people are constantly, judging and disregarding really what it is you're feeling, because to them they see what they see looks perfectly fine, so they just don't understand. And I just think there needs to be a lot more education done on
Do you think this is just something coming to me, like the you don't look sick syndrome, like can really impact someone's mental health?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that with not just with lupus, but with any medical condition that for a lot of people, I feel like they think they need to be able to physically visually see an effect on a person, for their mind to say, okay, that person's going through something medically speaking. And that is not the case a lot of the times across the board in different, whether it's cancer, lupus, and a lot of different things. So I do really think that has a strong mental effect on people. I know when I was younger, it bothered me a lot. But I've worked a lot on, for me personally, I've worked a lot on mental strength and
mental strength.
Yeah. Working
That's
my mind out just like I work my body out. Your mind is, especially like you said, stress. For me, stress is one of my biggest triggers. And I don't just have lupus, I also have epilepsy. So it's also a huge trigger for seizures as well. And so that, I had, like your point about we all have to figure out along the way what works for us. I had to realize, what goes on up here really affects everything else in me specifically. And I'm sure for most people in general. And I had to learn, I have to work out my mind, whether it's, and be cognizant of what I'm feeding it, whether it's reading, what I read, what I listen to, what I watch, who I surround myself with, and working on not allowing people to control that. So when somebody now says, well, you don't look sick to me, well, I'm sorry that you don't think I'm sick, but that's okay. Now it doesn't bother me, because now I look at it like, if I let that bother me, then I'm letting that person have some sort of control over me. And
well, it's working on that mental strength that you just said. So, the biggest impact that you want patients to know is have compassion and empathy. Definitely not sympathy, because you're not looking for that, but you're looking to help educate the community, which is why we're here today. And a way to combat that is through building your mental strength. And so I just want to jump to Natalie and just say, what do you have to say to someone that might be suffering from the you don't look syndrome, that patient that feels like, am I a hypochondriac? Why is everyone telling me I look okay, but I feel incredibly horrible, and just people not listening? Or do you have any maybe word of advice for that new patient that just is kind of figuring out what lupus is and maybe suffering from the you don't look sick syndrome?
Well, Leslie, just piggybacking on what the doctor was saying, mental strength, it's a muscle that has to be built little by little every day. And especially for the newly diagnosed patient out in the community, I would say find your tribe. Find your tribe. Find someone who you can talk to, that knows how to actively listen, that person who can, to some degree, walk alongside you. It only takes one person. You don't have to have a group of people to understand necessarily. It takes that one person that can actively listen and be empathetic. It is a journey. It is a journey that we will be on, and that person will be on for the rest of their lives. To the doctor's point also, stress management is very important. So it's going to take that newly diagnosed person, it's going to cause them to do some self-reflection. What is there that I can do to reduce my own stress, to put me in a mindset that will not make me think so much about the pain that I'm in or whatever struggles that I'm having, but that will make me think more along the lines of, this is just for now and it's going to get better. What can I do for myself to help myself? And enlist that one person that you decide to surround yourself with, even virtually, to kind of help you navigate it. It is something that they're just going to have to kind of trial and error sometimes. It takes that one person.
Takes that one person.
Take that one person.
Find your tribe. We need to coin that and mark it as a quote from you, Natalie, because I think it's important to just identify who your support system is. And it could just be that one person that has the empathetic, not sympathetic ear. We want empathy because we want to identify and help move past these things. And so, I think that's one thing that we try to help lupus patients do is to identify who your support system are. And if you don't have that support system, that's why we have 20 patient navigators throughout the state looking to connect with patients just to help you kind of find mental clarity, that mental health, removing the stuff that has no space in your head, negative self-talk and things of that nature that just don't have any business being in your mind space, and focusing in on how to live well with a chronic illness. And so I love that. Find your tribe. And I am so happy that you are a leader of a tribe for the Akron support group, because that's wonderful. That's good information. Sonia, you have always been a great person that I've learned from, lots of good things that I've learned from. I know you've kind of experienced some things at work with the but you don't look sick syndrome. And some patients some coworkers may be making insensitive comments to how you manage lupus, and anything you want people to know out there about lupus. Is there something that you would like the community to know?
So I agree with what they've been saying, and especially what Dr. Q said. I agree with the fact that you have to be, before you can actually even be able to just go out there, right? Or in the battlefield, you need to be mentally prepared. And I would say for the community that does not know about lupus, and maybe doesn't not just know about it, but doesn't even, it's a patient of lupus. Lupus is a invisible termite. It's an invisible termite. It's eating at you. You don't see it, and nobody can see it. But for those that are lupus patients, that's where your mental strength comes in. You have to be able to make sure that you have to take charge yourself. So, for me, I've always been one that I always give myself those pep talks, because I know that no one is going to be able to give it to me. One, they don't know what I'm walking. They don't know my footprints. They don't know them unless a lupus patient, even as a lupus patient, like you say, we're all different. We're all uniquely walking in our own walk, but we can learn and take from each other, and we may have some of the same symptoms and might kind of look in somewhat almost similar, but we're still very unique. And we have to be the first ones to be able to give that pep talk to ourselves. And so I've had people say to me like you just don't look like you hurt that bad, because I have to mentally prepare myself, because if I don't, I won't be able to put that other foot forward, because I know what I'm already going to, I already know the minute I leave my house, I already know the barriers I'm going to face. And I can't say, okay, just so like everybody believes that I have lupus and it's affecting me. It's pretty much like you have to let yourself go. But then if yourself go, I would have not made it 37 years. I wouldn't have. So I need to be my own, I have to be my own soldier. I have to be the one to fight for myself, and I can't allow those other words or looks or insensitive things to come into my mind, like Dr. Q said, because it's ugly out there. It literally is ugly. But at the same time, I need to try to educate and educate.
And I know you do that. I know you spend a lot of time educating a lot of people.
Yeah. and especially in the workplace, you really have to educate. I myself during pandemic, was faced with, pain. You can't see pain. You cannot see pain. And stress is one of those things that for me, like I can wake up okay, and within an hour I could be like, oh my gosh, like don't touch me, and you don't feel like you can take another step, but you can't see it. You really can't see it. And if you tell people like, oh my gosh, I am in so much pain, they look at you like you just want to get out of working. Like it's a beautiful day, you just want to go out, and and so it's hard, and that can mess up with your mind. And
so it comes back to that mental strength and just being able to guard yourself. I want to tell you this, Sonia, you are not alone in this journey, right? You have a lot of people that advocate for you and have gone through something similar, but you're right, it is unique in the sense that no two lupus patients are alike. They've not walked your shoes and get to where they are today the same way you did. And I sometimes know, a lupus patient shared a story with me that on the days she feels the worst, the day that she spends a little bit extra time on her makeup and her hair to make herself feel better. And sometimes she gets additional comments from people that say, oh, your hair looked nice. That kind of boosts that morale in herself. But really on the inside, she just feels the worst. And so it's that mask that, again, it is a mask that a patient puts on that they're forced to because people don't understand. And that's really why we're here today, is just coming to help you understand lupus is real. You shouldn't have to feel like you have to make people know what lupus is by explaining and complaining, right? That's not what you're trying to do. Right. It comes up in conversation that something hurts or a joint pain is here. You're not telling them because you want their sympathy. You're letting them know that this is how lupus affects you, and there is a difference. So keep speaking your mind and speaking up because it's important. So, to continue to move along, I'll start with Aletha with this next question. You kind of ended with your tribe is your family, and your support team is, I know Miss Dorothy, she's number one, A1 mama out there. And if she catches this, I'm trying to get brownie points. But in all honesty, we love you, Miss Dorothy. But, to your family support system, how has your family impacted just your overall health? And, who are those people you can rely on? Can you talk a little bit about family dynamics with understanding lupus and, how did you build that strong bond with the family? How does that come about?
Well, fortunately for me, I have my mother and I have my kids. I also have my mother-in-law who's a nurse. And initially when I first started, the things that I needed, they were always there to fill in the gaps. And they've never faltered for me with regards to who I talk to or who I relate to. I have my cousins, and then I have a couple of friends that I've made that also have lupus. So if it's something lupus specific, like lately we've been going back and forth about, are we going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot? And, a lot of us were scared, and I'll admit that I was scared too, because no one of color had taken the vaccine shot. They weren't included. No one of color that had lupus was included in that study. And I was just scared of the outcomes. And you needed somebody else that actually had lupus and had the same concerns as you to talk that through with. And I had that in my friends that shared the disease with me.
So that's an interesting, that like outside of family support, community support is the fear factor of receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. Before we jumped on here, I think a couple nights ago, I saw the news and how many people have received the vaccine so far, right? And a statistic that popped up, and I just confirmed this online, that 64% of patients that have received the vaccine are of Caucasian descent, and only 4% Black and are receiving the vaccine. So the fear factor is real, right? And we need to educate about, if you are scared, talk to your doctor. right? And so how do we get people to know? We understand there's a fear factor, and rightfully so, but how do we eliminate fear, or how can we talk about what is the best thing and maybe the right thing to do? And I think I'm going to jump over to Dr. Q. What do you think about just people that are fearful, that family support? Do they lean to their family? What would a lupus patient do, or just a general person do, if they're fearful of receiving the vaccine?
I would say whether it's the vaccine or they're fearful of anything in general, because when you have a chronic disease, a lot of fear comes with that because there's a lot of unknowns, right? So, it's really, really challenging. And in terms of when you talk about, I know you said about putting on a mask. I think I feel the other ladies in the panel can relate to this, that being a minority, a female minority at that, even without having a chronic illness, you feel like you have to put on a mask sometimes to be able to get to a certain level, whether it's professionally or have a certain level of respect. And or say the right things. How are you going to do this, or how are you going to do that? And then when you add the fact that you have a chronic illness on top of that, on top of being a minority, it just makes it even more challenging because, like Sonia was saying, somebody might, look at you and say, "Oh, you're not in pain or whatever," and you're just complaining. And in their mind, they might have a stereotype that, this minority, they just don't want to work, or whatever it might be. And I feel that that's important to say because it's never really said, right? But in terms of leaning on people and that kind of stuff, for me, it's difficult because I have some really strong family bonds. And then I also have some family members who are, they're takers, right? They're not necessarily givers. And it's really difficult as a Puerto Rican, and in my culture anyways, it's always, no matter how a family member treats you, it's always, well, that's la familia. You have to do it. Well, it took a lot of years and a lot of self-work, and again, back to the mental strength to say, no, it's not okay. They're my family. If they don't understand, then I don't want to be around that person because it's just negativity and then adding stress to yourself. So like Aletha was saying, I have some really close family members that I can lean on. But I also have some really beautiful friends that they might as well be family, that I can lean on, and it is very important to have that tribe. Because that someone who you can talk to and they're not going to judge you. For me, it's important. They're not going to judge me. They're not going to treat me like a patient, right? I don't want to be treated like a patient. I already feel a certain way. I don't want someone to treat me like I'm about to break. And so I think those are some really important things to discuss too. It's a little bit different in different minorities, the family dynamics, and a lot of times you get a little bit of manipulation. And my dad always referred to it as emotional blackmail. I always loved that term because it does feel like that. It's like, I had a hard time saying I can't, go to this event, or I can't eat that kind of food. A lot of our events are around food or whatever, or if they stay up late, and I know I have to be in bed at a certain time, or if I'm going to be up late, I know for myself I have to take a nap. And there are certain family members that don't understand that, right? And they can't accept that. And I had to learn the importance of finding my voice and being okay with using it and being okay with expressing what I need. This is what I need from you. And if you're not able to understand that or give that to me, then our relationship is probably going to change a little bit. And that's not because I don't love you. It's because I have to do what's best for myself. And I feel like a lot of people living with lupus have a hard time expressing their needs. And I think that's a really important thing for people to do.
Wow. I think that would really resonate with a lot of people about, maybe just putting a term to it, emotional blackmail. Like, what is it that people make you feel guilty that you have to do in order to be someone who is able to function normally? Like if you eat that, delicious, I'm going like empanada, something that's like fried and crunchy and something delicious, but is not going to sit well with you because it's just not it's not in your wheelhouse. I'm thinking of something delicious to eat. I'm getting kind of hungry actually. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, but the family's like, no, eat, you used to love this, or something like that feeling that you get. So could you talk about a little bit more about like, what is emotional blackmail? How does that, can you define that term a little bit for someone that I could see other patients identifying with it?
Sure. So emotional blackmail is when somebody uses, plays and preys on your emotions to try to get you to do what it is they want you to do. Mm-hmm. And it almost in a way to make it seem like it's going to be the best thing for you, but really it's very selfish, right? So for instance, it could be something. It could be very complex, or it could be something really simple. It could be something as simple as maybe it's a really fatiguing day for you living with lupus and you're too tired, but your family always gets together for Sunday dinners and you can't go. And one of your family members might call you and say, well, so and so cooked and they spent all this time and everybody's looking forward to you. And it's just a layer of guilt. So then you feel like you need to go. So then you get they tap into your emotional wheelhouse, basically. Mm-hmm. And so you don't realize it until later, but it's a way of manipulation. And they might not necessarily be meaning to do it or know that they're doing it, but that is in fact the case for a lot of people.
And so someone's saying here, I can definitely relate to that. So that's awesome. And then a good suggestion on how to deal with handling emotional blackmail is setting boundaries and how important that is. And sounds like that's what you've done, is kind of have the conversation ahead of time.
And it's not easy. And especially with minorities, I know minorities of all different ethnicities, and most minority families are very, very tight. And it's when something happens like that, or you're the one who has to finally put your foot down, it's harder to put your foot down when your family's so tight. Then you're looked at as, I can't believe she did this, or I can't believe, when it's just you're doing what's best for yourself. And so that's why you have to find your voice. You have to realize what it is your triggers are and try to explain that to your family members and try to just let them know, these are my needs. And again, if certain family members, some people will understand it and some people never will. And it's not our jobs to change them.
Yeah.
But it's our job to protect ourselves. And if that means maybe we can't just have as involved a relationship as them, like Natalie was saying, you need that
tribe, that team. So we are, getting close over our time, but I feel like we have good stuff to say and so much more to say. Yeah. But I think we're circling back. I've kind of coined that term for you, Dr. Q, as the emotional blackmail, circling full circle back to Natalie and finding your tribe. How does someone find their tribe? Maybe they have a tight family, a big family that gives support, good and bad. But how do you build that community? Any suggestions there, Natalie?
Well, one of the things it's going to require is to be open and vulnerable, even when we may not feel like doing so, given all the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. It requires reaching out to people. It requires maybe establishing new relationships. Sometimes we have to step outside of our comfort zone and find that one, wherever that may be. Think about, again, looking at self-reflection, it could be somebody that you used to work with. It could be somebody that maybe church, or, you got to kind of think about what are some of those avenues where you can encounter different people. Think about the library. It may require you to think outside the box, step outside the box to find that one. It could be a relative that you hadn't talked to in a long time. You just kind of lost touch. It's like, wonder how that cousin that I used to have fun with when we were little that I kind of lost touch with. It could be that one. It just requires being vulnerable, kind of putting aside those fears that we often feel when we try to reach out to someone and we're worried about being rejected or a person not understanding. And if you go to that one and that person doesn't get it, okay, kind of move them off to the side and continue the journey on until you find that one. So, and you make that one in a support group too.
Yeah,
so
you mentioned being
yeah.
Yes, definitely. Joining a support group is a great way to find just people that you have something in common with. But there is that sense of vulnerability, right, when you do that, because you're not sure what you're going to walk into. So, I guess my piece of advice is if you feel vulnerable and you're finding a new tribe, that new community, a new support group, when you walk into a support group or join in that Zoom meeting, if you come in with a thought process of how can I contribute to this group? What is the piece of information or the one thing that I can help with? When you enter in a new tribe that way, about being a part of the tribe with offering something, it doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be emotional support. It could be something that you can contribute to the group, is a great way to not feel vulnerable, right? And then what will naturally come is the tribe comes together, the support group comes together and starts talking about their thing that they're bringing to the group. And, I think each of you brought something to this tribe today. And I really want to continue to build this tribe and have people just step on board and say, yeah, I found people that support me, that know me, that understand this is not an invisible disease, that know that, people make insensitive comments, but I have the tools because I've heard about building strength mentally. I've learned not to subject emotional blackmail into my feelings of every day. Aletha, you built your community with your family, has really supported you and brought you through. But with that, you found a tribe in itself with other lupus patients. And so I welcome everyone to join in and be a part of a tribe. We're always welcoming people to join on board. And I just want to give a couple shout outs there, because some people from our tribe are hollering at us. And Angela Yoder, she's a big supporter of our tribe. And also Dawn Salvi, I haven't seen her in such a long time. Greetings to you, Dawn. And this is our tribe. And we come together to support one of you. I think in the beginning, maybe we all felt a little bit vulnerable, as guest speakers of a panel today, but you've each just laid that one tiny seed to maybe sprout some inspiration for our patients to not feel alone, to know they're not alone, and to just really identify with one another. So I truly am grateful for you all just coming together and speaking. I think we're going to have to do this again, because I feel like we didn't get to a lot of our topics that we wanted to talk about, but I think we hit the important parts. Lupus is not an invisible disease, and we want you to come out and speak out. Anyone can contact the office at 1-888-NO-LUPUS. You can email us at info@lupusgreaterohio.org. We have a new chapter website filled with resources. So if you're looking for help with managing your lupus, maybe some tools that that you need, reach out to us. You can call the chapter as well, and we can connect you with a patient navigator. There is a lot of research happening in our world today, and I want to just tell everyone out there that, research is important, because I truly believe if we can unlock the mysteries to lupus, we can unlock the mysteries to many other autoimmune diseases. And that's probably a whole nother topic for another session with you guys, but definitely, don't be afraid to reach out. If you're feeling vulnerable, come with something to offer. And just to close, I thank you guys. And one final message from Sonia, would you like to address everyone and saying thank you for listening out there?
So I just want to say thank you for our community that's watching and that hearing us. Thank you for being present. Gracias a toda nuestra comunidad por estar presente en esta tarde. And if anything I can leave with all of you is like, stay strong. And if you're feeling on a day that you feel that it's getting too heavy, it's too hard, just go to a place and just look in the mirror, and then just remember that you are beautiful. You were created uniquely in the image of the great I am. But most of anything, you need to believe in yourself. For others to see that, you need to be able to just walk that. And just by walking it doesn't mean that you're putting yourself out there. But something that I do every morning, when you wake up in pain, the last thing you want is to be happy, right? So I just go to the mirror and I said, you got this. You got this. And you're beautiful. You are a conqueror. Look at where you have achieved, where you're standing today. So you got this, and just believe in it. Take 1 second. That second takes you to the minute, to the hour, and to the day. And before you know it, you've accomplished what you thought when you first got up, you were not going to be able to accomplish. So hooray to you. I'll be the first one to say and applaud to you all for making it through the day. And tomorrow is another day.
Tomorrow's another day. That's beautiful, Sonia. Thank you for that. And, Aletha, thank you guys. Dr. Q, Natalie, Lindsay-Smith, I appreciate your time spending here. We've had a lot of comments, and I'll definitely circle back to talk with everyone. Feel free to reach out to us if you want to connect with one another. Just reach out to the chapter here, and we are here for you. And just day by day, the days are long, but the years are short, and we are a tribe together. So thank you all for joining. And I'll wish everyone a great rest of the weekend.
I can't wait. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
ladies. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.